Hi and welcome. I'm Susanna Crawford, GiveSmart's community manager, and this is a jam session. Our quick conversations with fundraising professionals to share how they have successfully and creatively diversified their funds, all in hopes that you can do it too. Today, we're talking about recurring giving and the strategy behind it. Susan Brand, manager of donor services, is joining us from the organization Olive Crest in Santa Ana, California. We're thrilled to have her here today. Olive Crest is actually has the highest amount of recurring donations in the GiveSmart platform. So we are thrilled to have her wisdom around the strategy behind it. Susan, thank you so much for being here.
Oh, thank you so much for having me.
All right, we're going to get started with some rapid fire questions. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay. What is Olive Crest's mission?
Olive Crest's mission is preventing child abuse, and we do that through educating and treating not only the children but the families as well. We also provide foster care and adoption services and all those support centers to keep the families together before hopefully making that next step into a foster or adoption situation.
Wow. What an incredible mission in the work you do. And what's your favorite program that Olive Crest offers right now?
One of my favorite programs that we have is it's called our Independent Living Skills Program. And so it takes children that basically at about age 16, because most kids opt out of social services or foster care at 18, and it starts teaching them life skills. So, how to balance a checkbook, how to get a job, and then we set them up with like an apartment and monitoring so they can learn how to live. And so I think that's a really neat program.
Wow, yeah, that's incredibly valuable. Thank you for sharing that. That's awesome. And Susan, what is your fundraising superpower?
Um, Probably as I think most people in an event space has is kind of being able to quickly think at an event or change course as things pop up. So I'd say that's kind of one of my higher skill sets.
Yeah, absolutely. We definitely all know in the events world how important that is. Awesome. So we'll jump in here to more of your events and recurring giving. So first, can you kind of tell us what types of events and campaigns Olive Crest holds each year, and what does your team look like to be able to accomplish that?
Sure. Yeah, so I'm part of our national office, and then we have 7 fundraising offices up and down the West Coast. And through that, we do about 24 large, I would say, fundraising events a year. And those, vast from like our sporting, like golf and fishing to like gala. We have some women only event where we highlight, purses and shoes. And then we have more of like we have a motorcycle ride, which is kind of cool, and then we got a walk and bowling, so a little bit of everything.
Yeah, no, that's great. I mean, creative campaigns all around, right? Really diversifying where those funds come from. That's fantastic. And specifically, the funds that you have that are reoccurring came from this campaign that we're seeing right here on this slide. And you've mentioned that it came through a paddle raise specifically. Can you kind of talk about a paddle raise and also doing reoccurring on the platform? How did you mix the two of these and how did that work?
Yeah. So the majority of those, as you kind of indicated, came through one of our galas. So we have kind of an ask moment towards the end of the gala where we ask everyone to give a donation. And typically that's a one-time donation. But we added on, as anyone who does fundraising kind of knows, you want to give people as many options as they can to give. So we added on the reoccurring option to that, to the paddle raise or the ask moment, where you kind of ask people like, hey, who will give 1,000, raise your paddle. So after we did kind of those one-time donation asks, we then went out and said, hey, who's willing to monthly support children? And we did that because it was a gala with a little bit higher pocket crowd. And we did that at a $50 and $100 increments for that. And so that worked really well. And we were happy to, onboard we have, I think, about 35 new recurring donors from that, actually, that one ask.
That's fantastic. So just to clarify, so when they said yes to that, they would go into the system and press that, or how did you
Oh,
kind of
sure.
get that into the system? And then also too, I know there was something with gold balloons. Could you talk about that?
Yes. So what we did is we had, they could do it either way. So they could raise their paddle. So we did that where the auctioneer at the front said, if you'd like to do it, at $100, raise your paddle. And then we had people recording down those numbers, and then manually we put that in at the end. But we also had that option open on the GiveSmart platform. So if they wanted to manually, go in right then and do it, or even, think we left that open so they could think about that, later that night or the next day. And then we sent out like a little, in our thank you for joining us and everything, we put a little reminder in the bottom too that they could click to do that. But we also used kind of the paddle raise, like the peer pressure of if they did raise their paddle right then and made that commitment, we brought them a balloon. So it gives that little like peer pressure at a table, like, uh-oh, everybody's got a balloon but me. So hopefully that would, egg them on to do that as well.
Yes, I think that's a great idea. I mean, that we've seen that work gala after gala is something like that, right? So that's
Yeah.
fantastic. And onto the kind of strategy around recurring giving. I know that when you go to your donate page from your actual website, there is the option to set up a recurring giving donation. And I'm just curious, can you talk a little bit about what the strategy is and why this is important to all of Crest to even offer this as an option?
Sure. So reoccurring giving is just a baseline important part of your fundraising, I guess, methodology. Um, these donors become part of your family because of the commitment of what they're doing on a monthly basis. Um, so because they're not the one time like, oh, randomly I just did it. Um, they're investing in your company. And along with that, we're able to communicate with them a little bit more often and give them some special perks with that. Um, so we, so we always
Yep.
have that open and we want that channel. And it's also a good sustainable line when you're looking at your fundraising, because you kind of know you have that commitment of, hey, next month we're going to get X amount of dollars in.
Yeah.
So,
Absolutely. So I'm hearing you're kind of saying it helps you a little forecast, I guess, a little bit around those donations and what you can kind of expect. And then also I love the words of bringing them into your family. I think that's so valuable. And could you talk a little bit more about like how you steward those relationships? What types of communications or incentives or things do you offer for someone who becomes a reoccurring donor?
yeah. So when they become a reoccurring donor, so our program's called Kids at Heart. So we call them a Kids at Heart donor. Um, they get a special welcome packet with that. And so it's like with a magnet and a little art, children's artwork goes in there that they can then proudly put on their fridge. On there, and then we send them out special emails throughout the year, um, highlighting what their gift in particular is doing for us. And then we typically invite them to appreciation events so they can kind of see what their dollars are doing on that basis. And then we do treat them differently. We pull them out of like our monthly asks, and they're very targeted when they get like additional ask moments throughout the year and things like that. So we want to treat them differently. And then we have our major gift officers, handle them with a little more care, giving thank you calls periodically throughout the year and things like that.
Yeah, I think that's really important. Not only like what are you adding to help steward that relationship, but also like what are you taking away from them so they don't necessarily receive those general asks and such. I think that's so valuable in this. And I'm going to throw one last question at you here.
Yeah.
But how do you kind of handle like the thank you and tax letters and those? Do you send them out monthly every time after you receive that gift, or what does that look like for you guys?
Sure. Yeah. So what we do is because we want them to truly feel like we're valuing their money, like their monthly gift and stewarding that well. Um, in their first thank you, we put in there that they will only be receiving a tax statement at the end of the year listing all their giving unless they notify us they would prefer a monthly or some other type of plan. And that's worked really well. People have really appreciated that.
Awesome. Yeah, I think that's great. Thank you.
Yeah.
And that will wrap us up for today. Thank you, Susan, for joining us.
Well, thank you for having me.
Yeah, it was great. And thank you all for listening. To connect with stellar fundraisers like Susan, learn more resources, get some more peer examples. Join the GiveSmart community. The link is right here. It's all you have to do is register. It's open to anyone. And we look forward to seeing you there. Thanks so much.